You don't forget something like that. The sky was pale gold that morning. You could hear the gulls in the distance, the waves lapping rhythmically against the shore, and for a moment, it all felt quiet, peaceful. But then I saw him, a man in a suit, leaning against the seawall as if he'd just stopped to rest. At first, I thought maybe he was drunk or just tired, maybe sleeping off the heat, but he wasn't moving, not even breathing, and there was this eerie calm about him, his legs crossed, his hands by his side, like death had taken him gently. I didn't know it then, but that moment, that man, would become a mystery that would haunt this country for decades. The newspaper would call him the Somerton Man, but to me, he was the beginning of a question no one's ever answered. It was just after 6:30 a.m. on December 1st, 1948, when his body was discovered on Somerton Beach, located just outside Adelaide, South Australia. At first glance, it looked innocent, ordinary, even. A well-dressed man reclining peacefully against a low stone seawall. He wore a clean suit, polished leather shoes, and a tie that matched his coat. He could have been waiting for someone, resting, daydreaming, but he wasn't. When police arrived, they quickly ruled out any natural cause of death, because they couldn't find one. There were no visible injuries, no sign of struggle. His limbs were relaxed, his expression calm. If it wasn't for the swarm of flies that had already begun to gather, you might have thought he was merely sleeping. But the real confusion began when they searched him. His pockets contained no wallet, no identification, and strangely, every tag had been cut from his clothing, even the ones sewed into the linen. His fingerprints were sent to the databases in Australia, the UK, and even the US military records. No matches. It was as if the man had erased himself before dying. A few days into the investigation, a small bizarre detail emerged. Hidden in the waistband of a man's trousers, tucked away in a secret stitched pocket, was a tiny, neatly rolled up piece of paper. The kind of thing someone might go to great lengths to hide or preserve. Printed in elegant script were just two words, Tamam Shud. The phrase was in English. It was Persian, and it came from a classic work of poetry, the Rubáiyat of Omar Khayyám, a book about fate, mortality, and the impermanence of life. Tamam Shud translates to, it is ended, not just an ending, a declaration. To detectives, it directly raised questions. Was this a suicide note, a coded message, or the calling card of something far more complex? The mystery deepened when someone stepped forward in response to the police plea for information. A local man claimed that on November 30th, just one day before the body was found, he had parked his car a few blocks from the Somerton Beach. Later, when he returned to it, he discovered something odd. A book was left on the back seat. He had no idea how it got there. The book, the Rubáiyát of Omar Khayyám. Police took the copy and flipped through it. It was missing its final page, the very page containing the words Tamam Shud. The font and styling matched perfectly. This was it, the exact book that paper scrap had been torn from. But that wasn't the only surprise hidden within its pages. In the back cover of Rubaiyat, investigators found something scribbled, faintly in pencil, a strange sequence of letters arranged in seemingly intentional format. It wasn't a name. It wasn't a word. It looked like some sort of cipher. Experts from all around the world tried to crack it. Australian naval intelligence, cryptographers, mathematicians, some thought it was a one-time pad, a rare, unbreakable cipher used in espionage. Others believed it was a mnemonic, a series of letters representing a poem or a message. To this day, no one has deciphered it with certainty. The letters remain one of the most puzzling codes in modern forensic history. Also scrawled in the book was a telephone number, unlisted and barely visible. It led detectives to a woman named Jessica Thompson, a nurse who lived just 400 meters from where the man had been found. Jessica, or Justin, as she was known by friends, was brought in for questioning. When investigators showed her the plastic cast bust of the deceased, her reaction was instant and unsettling. Her face turned pale. She appeared on the verge of collapse. But when pressed, she insisted she didn't know him. She gave no explanation for her emotional response. It turned out Jessica had once gifted a copy of the Rubáiyat to Elf Boxall, an army officer and a former intelligence operative. Investigators thought perhaps Boxall was the dead man, but Boxall was found alive, living peacefully in Sydney, and still had his copy of the book intact. That lead, like so many others, went cold. For more than 7 decades, the Somerton Man remained unnamed. Buried in a modest grave at West Terrace Cemetery, he became the centerpiece of one of Australia's most enduring mysteries. But then, in 2022, everything changed. Using a strand of hair preserved from the plaster bust, forensic experts extracted mitochondrial DNA. Through painstaking genetic genealogy, they traced a family tree, one that eventually led to Carl Charles Webb, born in 1905 in Melbourne. He was an electrical engineer, known to have separated from his wife and gone missing around 1947. There were no known records of him after that. The man with no name had a name once again, but the answers only led to more questions. Carl Webb had no known connection to espionage, no obvious reason to travel Adelaide, and no surviving relatives who knew why he would vanish. He wasn't listed as a spy or a war asset, and yet the precise removal of his clothing tags, the secret pocket, the cryptic note, the unknown code, all suggested someone hiding their identity or being silenced. Jessica Thompson's son, Robin, had a rare genetic anomalies, a missing pair of lateral incisors and a unique ear structure, both matching the Somerton Man. Some investigators believe Carl Webb was Robin's father, making Jessica's denial of knowing the man all more mysterious. Was this a case of a jilted affair, a hidden family, or something darker, a Cold War cover-up? The Somerton Man's mystery remains, like the sea that once touched his shoes, deep, vast, and unsettlingly quiet. His name was Carl Webb, but his story is far from over. Why Adelaide? Why no records? Why the secrecy? Tamam Shud was the message he left behind. But maybe it wasn't an ending. Maybe it was a warning. And while living may forget, the Reaper never does. Because in the end, when death keeps its secrets, it's the Reaper who tells the story. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay cautious. Until next time on Reaper Files.